first of all, let me, before I start my in-conversation with Nikos Stathopoulos, apologise. You've seen two very Greek names, and I should be conducting this in Greek, right? And unfortunately, my Greek is at a very low level. You can blame my father, and we're going to conduct this in English, so apologies for that. The one word I remember from all of my Greek relatives is "δεν τρέπεσαι," and so I am ashamed. And we'll be conducting this session in English, so thank you for bearing with us. Look, I'm absolutely delighted to have Nikos Stathopoulos, European Chairman of BC Partners, long track record, which I think you've seen in the bio, but a real focus on some of the investment landscape that we've been talking around a lot of the sessions at Delphi. 3 decades of experience across sectors, so really delighted to be able to have an informal engagement with somebody who really has been at the front line of private equity, private credit, and a range of other investments. Previously, Nikos was a partner at Apax Partners, but I'm going to use the time to get into some of the substantive questions. So thank you for joining us. Thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure.
I'm Constantin Cotzias, that's the Greek name, and I head up Bloomberg in the UK. So, Nikos, we can't have been at any sessions throughout this Delphic forum without hearing about the current turbulence in the markets. Your take as an investor, what do you see as the sort of immediate impact?
Well, first of all, let me thank the Delphi Economic Forum for inviting me again in its annual event. And I know it's been a very popular event every year, and I know it's celebrating its 10th year anniversary. So I look forward to the next 10 years of this forum. I don't know if I can remember in my 30-year career of investing a more uncertain time that has really been created by effectively policy making. And it's not because of any geopolitical events, it's not because of wars, it's not because of things that you could argue we don't control. It's been really defined by policy. And the policy that we see coming from the US at the moment is certainly, I would say, inconsistent. And I don't even know if it's actually representing an ideology or if it's just a negotiating tactic. But certainly what it has shown is that it's inconsistent, it's unpredictable, and certainly very aggressive. And it's very natural that an attitude and a policy like this creates a lot of uncertainty. Uncertainty has impacted business. It really has paused business. Right. It has paralyzed business. I think it has paralyzed investing. It has created an environment where people just don't know what they're going to wake up the next day. What's certain in my mind is that the whole tariffs that have been imposed will certainly increase inflation and will lower growth. And I actually think that probably the country that might be impacted the most, ironically, could be the United States. And I think you read, even in the last few days, a lot of people talking about the risk of recession in the US. I'm sure it was not the driver of all the policy making of President Trump, but I think that could be inevitable. So unless there is a major course correction on what's going to happen, I just don't see how the markets are gonna stop being nervous. You see that the markets remain nervous. You see that that inconsistency that we were talking about, even yesterday came that there will be, or a couple of days ago, a 90-day pause on what was a very big move. So frankly, I think and I hope there will be a course correction because the markets have reacted. I think President Trump has seen the reaction of the markets. He's a businessman after all, and hopefully he can manage to calm things down.
Well, I think you touched on what was going to be my next question, which was the practical impact on deal making, which sounds like paralysis or a pause for now.
Yeah.
Let me pick up on your policy-making piece and pivot from the US to Europe. Again, lots of panels and lots of discussion and debate about Europe's response. Some positive, I think remarkable pace at which and unity with which the European Union put together its counter-strategy. I was just in Warsaw with the sort of 27 finance ministers, and there seems to be a renewed commitment to do some of the deregulation and some of the growth and competitiveness agenda. Your sense on the European posture and what you're seeing in terms of European policy making?
Well, first, and I said it a couple of days ago also in an interview, I actually do think it's the time for Europe. And I think it's the time for Europe to not show unity alone, which if there's one thing that President Trump successfully achieved was to unite the Europeans, which is not a small task, as we know. Europe is a very fragmented and diverse market. It has a lot of different cultures and everything else. It's one of the rare occasions. I think the other time I saw Europe united in the last decade has been during the pandemic.
Yes.
And I think it's one of the rare occasions where the policy of President Trump was able to unite the Europeans. The Europeans have shown in the past that, especially at times of crisis, they're able to react and react decisively. And I think this is the time to show that they can do the same. And they can do it, of course, by coming back with retaliating measures and everything else. I'm not sure this is the way to react. And this may be the time to also come up with strong leadership in the US, in Europe. It is an element that Europeans have been criticized in the past of, let's say, a lack of leadership in some cases, etc. This is the time to show that leadership. Let's not forget, from a size of an economy, Europe is actually very similar to the size of the United States.
Yes.
It's a 23, 24 trillion economy compared to 27 trillion in the United States. So from a size perspective, we have nothing to fear. I think what we need to do now is to show that unity, be able to react credibly against what's been offered. And I do think that I think Europe can benefit from what's going on. Naturally, countries like China seem to be the ones that are going to be facing the most aggression, for the lack of a better word. But I think this is the time for Europe.
I think that's right. Let me pivot back to Greece. Here we are in Delphi. You've had a tremendous track record in Greece. Two questions. Before the pause that you mentioned, what were you and your team looking at? I know you don't like to talk about sectors, but what sort of companies and opportunities did you like? And then more on the sort of policy front, I mean, I think it's fair to say there's been tremendous progress if you've been coming to Greece for a while on the policy front. What more do you think needs to be done politically here to keep that momentum?
So in terms of the sectors and the companies and everything else, the reality is that we have been investing actually in Greece, as discussed, for the last 20 years.
Yeah, right.
So it's not that we suddenly discovered that Greece could be a very interesting investment destination because this government has been able to really put the Greece back in the map with the actions that it has taken. We identified Greece as a potential investment destination close to 20 years ago. And having said that, I think in terms of its stability, in terms of its progress, in terms of policy making, in terms of reforms, the Greece in the last 4 or 5 years has been substantially better than it used to be. What we look for is sectors that are growing, that are downside protected, and that have a dynamic that can also create these tailwinds, that secular growth that will allow even companies that operate in the sectors to grow with them. And these industries could vary, and each year I've been asked in this forum on which sectors we would invest in stuff. Frankly, the reality is that different sectors at different types of the economy and times of the economy can actually have a different dynamic. So it's a very dynamic exercise. We're not dogmatic, we have to invest in the sector, we have to do it, because things change. We've been very big investors in cable or pay television. We've been very big investors in healthcare. We've been investors in potential retail. But the dynamics of the sectors change. What really doesn't change, in my mind and in my experience, as the type of companies we want to invest in. And these, regardless of sector, have to be market leaders. I have seen in my experience that the market leaders always will have the benefit of scale. They have pricing power. They tend to attract the best management teams because the best management teams want to work for the market leading firm. They tend to have the consolidating power, especially in fragmented sector. The market leader has both the financial capacity and the management capacity to consolidate the sector. We do like fragmented sectors because these sectors are the ones that, if you buy the market leader, you're able to consolidate it. And we do like sectors where you have high margins and high cash generation. Companies do not go bust because their margins go lower and stuff. Companies go bust because they run out of cash. So if you buy companies that have very strong cash generation, you know you're going to be there, you can survive, you can sustain any shocks. And shocks do happen. We've seen it in this environment, that shocks unfortunately do happen. So if you have strong margins, strong cash generation, a very strong market position, the market leader is the one that should grow faster, in theory, than the actual industry itself, and should have that sustainable competitive advantage. Greece has plenty of those companies.
Yeah.
I think Greece is an entrepreneurial culture. It's very similar to some of the other Southern European markets where you do have that sort of entrepreneurial pathos and drive to do certain things. And I think as a country, as we've proven with our investments in the last 20 years, there are pockets of excellence that you can find companies which might be based in Greece, but actually have operations globally. In 2015, we invested in a pharmaceutical business called Pharmathen here. By the way, it was at a time where Greece was even debating on whether to get out of Europe. There was a referendum that was happening at the time. People thought we were crazy to make that investment. But we identified a business that operated in a global sector, which had a great management team, great product, great research and development, and we were able to not only invest in it, but generate one of the highest, if not the highest, capital gain of any foreign investment in this country in the past. There are others of those. In the last 3 years, we've invested in the telecom and media space with our acquisition of Nova. We invested in the pet food space with Pet City, and also in the private education space with Metropolitan College. The latter are industries where I actually do think Greece could present an opportunity. Industries that are lagging behind the rest of Europe and the US in terms of maturity, penetration, growth. Pet food is one of them. Private education is certainly another one. And there could be others, by the way. And I think that's where Greece can excel, take the lessons from some other countries and some other industries, implement it in our country. A very big advantage that our country has is an exceptional human capital. Yeah. And I keep saying in every meeting, in every conference I speak, I think the quality of human capital, of management in this country is second to none. Yeah. As long as that human capital is channeled properly in the right way and in the right sectors, I think Greece has nothing to fear, and there will be plenty of those that can be done. Coming to the growth and the policy making, I also generally try to avoid giving specific examples of what needs to change. We talk a lot in many of these conferences about bureaucracy and about the legal system and everything. These, unfortunately, are still true, despite the big progress that has been made. For me, I think the key thing for our country here is to make sure that we get sustainable growth. And I think Greece has certainly restored its credibility and its position and reputation in the global scene. It has certainly done so with authority, I would say, and I think with a statue that everybody now sees in this country says this is a stable market. 100%. It's with a stable currency, with a stable government, and with stable policies and consistent policies, not unpredictable. I think we've gained that bet in Greek, even though you don't speak. So we're kerdisame to stihima in Greece. I think the next step now is make sure we don't lose. Yes. We stay the course. Yes. We stay the course when it comes to continuing that sustainability of growth, not continue to have the courage of conviction, as I kept saying, the courage to continue the reforms, because the moment you do this, the moment you create a stable, growing environment that investors love. Yeah. They want to invest in stable countries that are growing economies, and you know that you're not going to have an unpredictable event that you wake up one day and see things changing. So I think Greece is on the right track. I would want it to continue to stay the course and make sure that they continue to grow and make sure that the social impact, το κοινωνικό αποτύπωμα that this country leaves and this government leaves continues to be at top of the agenda. Well, because there are different ways to grow 100% in countries, and you can neglect certain things and you can actually promote certain things. And I think this is this is a great opportunity for the...
Well, I agree with that, and I agree with the quality of the human capital. If I think about Bloomberg's business, we continue to grow and invest precisely for that reason.
Yeah.
There's really good, well-skilled capital and also people coming out of the universities. Let me take the opportunity, I know it's just a short session, but I'm always interested in the personal. When we were preparing for this, we both found out we have both share a common interest in sport. And you hear sometimes slightly cliched, slightly tired analogies, from sport to business, winning, success, goals. But I do think that there are some very specific read-acrosses from very high-performing sports teams, whether it's resilience, whether it's marginal gains. And we were discussing, if you had to sort of take, from your lens as a sports fan, some of the key ingredients that you think could inform a business strategy or investment strategy, what would they be?
Well, one of the reasons I really like sports, as you do, is because I think it has the passion and energy, and it brings out the passion and energy, not only of the athletes, but of the fans, which I think are two critical ingredients in life. Forget about business. I think even in life. And I think if without passion, you don't have energy, and I think without energy, you have nothing. So I think what sports brings you out these two key elements. To your point, I think it's exactly right. If you think about it, there are a lot of lessons that as business people we can learn from the sports world. The first and foremost is teamwork. I keep saying, even in my business, in investing is a team sport. I don't have the monopoly of good judgment. I don't. Frankly, I don't think any single individual does. So the teamwork that actually sports has is very, very common in our world. Second one is that discipline and commitment.
Yeah.
And athletes have that discipline and commitment. You go on the court, you need to be disciplined. They have to train. They have to be committed. They go there, they have to win. They have to show the commitment. You cannot be a lazy athlete. There's no such thing as a lazy athlete.
Well, unless you're a darts player.
That's your dart. Maybe. That's not really a sport in my top 100 sports when I look at sports, to be very fair, and unfortunately to darts take. But I think you need to have that discipline and commitment, as we need to have in the business world. If I'm honest, a big element in learning is resilience. We mentioned this. I would say I have not learned much from my successes in life. Everything I've learned has been from my failures. And I think the athletes and the sports teams who fail, who are bounced back, the speed and the way you bounce back from a failure is an unbelievable learning that I think as business people we can have. And also leadership. If you think about as leaders and as a coach of a team, you need to motivate your people. You need to drive them to go out on court and win. That's what we do every day. That's what I try to do with my teams, to motivate them, to wake up in the morning, to be enthusiastic and driven, to go and win. And winning in my industry may be doing a deal, making an exit, winning the hearts and minds of sellers, of management teams. It doesn't matter. Winning in your business is, of course, different. But actually, winning requires leadership.
Yeah, it does.
I don't think that any team, any firm, actually, any company in the world can win in its own sector unless it has good leaders.
100%.
And lastly, I also think that you need to be adaptable. You need that agility. We've seen in the world of today, in any court, in any basketball court, in any football court, you don't know what the opponent is coming out, in what system they're going to play, and how they're going to structure themselves. So you need to adapt to the opposition from that matter. That's how we adapt every day. Unfortunately, in our industry, contrary to sports, we need to adapt to tariffs today.
Yeah.
So that was a curveball that we didn't really
Yeah.
expect when we were looking at this industry. But that is also critical. You need to be adaptable. So in my mind, teamwork, discipline, commitment, resilience, leadership, adaptability, agility, all these things are things that we as businessmen can learn from the world of sports. And that's why, apart from passion and energy, I think it's a great industry, and there's a lot that all of us can learn in this. That's why I keep loving sports, and I hope all of us either play or continue to watch this. There's a lot to learn.
Listen, I completely agree. I completely agree on the learnings of failure. I'm being asked to sort of wrap it up, but if I'm going to take the liberty of asking one closing question. Successful business careers can often be a springboard to political careers. Any interest in that space?
That was the curveball. Listen, I'm fortunate to love what I do. And I think in life and in business, if you love what you do, you tend to do it well. And I've been lucky that I do what I love, and I love what I do. And I think you never know what the river of life can bring to you. Our business is very challenging ourselves, and life is challenging, and life can bring you different challenges. For now, I think the challenge of doing what you love the best way you can is a great challenge to have. And I think I wish that all of us do what we love and love what we do, because it makes you wake up in the morning in a great way, with a smile and the drive and energy and passion that I keep talking about, which is critical ingredient.
Well, you answered that question like a politician, so you must have you must have some interest. Nikos Stathopoulos, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.